Okay. Wish I had more weekends. I wish I had the power of a weekend. Welcome to the Art of Rock. It's Saturday morning. I'm Carl. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge the Tongva people as being the rightful landowners of where I am in Los Angeles. Every Saturday morning, we are here on Angelspit's Twitch, or Saturday afternoon or Saturday night, wherever you're watching. Alex, I wish you'd jump on. I miss your face. This is made possible with Angelspit's Patreon. There. And if you want to throw me $3 a month, there. Or half of it's free. In fact, all of it will eventually be free. So jump on that shit. I have a gig coming up on the 19th of February. Oh my God, that's getting closer by the minute. Holy crap, that's like in a week and a half. There. Come. It's in LA and it's going to be ambient music and I'm very excited about it and it's going to be amazing. There is something else amazing, which is this playlist. Bunch of industrial bands. You've heard of some of them. You haven't heard of some of them. Jump on that shit. I guarantee you're going to find something fantastic. Something else, place where you're going to find fantastic is MTV TV. Words are not my friends today, and I don't care. Non-stop music from the bleeding edge, and I am telling you right now, you're going to find it. If you watch that, you got to do it at your own. Julius, jump on the bloody thing. Good to see you. You're going to find your new favorite band there. So proceed with caution, because you're going to go, oh my God, I love this band. And you're going to love them because you are. I don't know who that is. Next is you can actually email them. If everybody's being very Australian in the bloody things right now, it's very funny. Email them there if you've got a track. And I got to warn you, if you email them, people are going to hear your music, which is a good warning. And they also have a Patreon, so please go check out their Patreon because we have to keep them going. I'm sorry, Brett, I didn't let you in. Razi, thank you for having my back all the time. My co-host with the co-most.
Yes, you're welcome.
It sounds like a diss. I'm sorry. Welcome. I found out that the German word for art is war is Kunst ist Krieg.
Krieg.
I was inspired by that last night, but we're not talking about that right now. What we are talking about is why is making music so fucking hard? And every time it's like, hey, Ivan, I want to talk, he's gone. All you see is this chair. Thank you, Julius. And if you want to, you should get in, Julius. I'm going to send you the thing. I always love it when you jump on. So I was thinking, you know how you're writing a song and you always go, is there a formula for doing this? Like, is there an easy way to doing this? There isn't. I don't think so. And if there is, then you're doing it wrong. Julius, I just sent Adam. It's great to see you. Jump in. I want to share experience about the difficulty of songwriting and about how process versus just going fuck it. And Raziel, I'd love you to start this.
I think that one of the biggest problems people encounter when, well, there's two that come to mind when they're saying, I want to be a musician, I want to make electronic music, I want to make solo indie producer, electronica, things that you're responsible for. It looks daunting. It looks like you need to buy a lot of gear. It looks like you need to learn a lot of applications. It looks like you need to be a technologist. And on the other side of that, you have this classical Western paradigm where like the tradition of pedagogy is you need to learn all of these rules before you can make music. And it's a backwards thinking on both of those accounts. It's damaging, it's hazardous, it's super fun to learn the stuff after, but the idea that to be a musician or an artist, you need to have all those rules already learned as opposed to do the process and learn them along the way and discover which ones apply to you and learn how to break them as you go. One of those things is inviting, the other one's daunting. So I've always tried to encourage people to start with the simplest methods, techniques, enjoyable activities in music as possible, and that's just singing. Start singing. It's attached to yourself. You may have feelings about it, but you've got the instrument. Most cases, most people do. And then move to accompanying yourself on piano or guitar or synthesizers, and worry about how good you are with the applications and technology as you go. And keep in mind that the idea of theory, Western harmony, is not a set of rules, but it's a way of describing what you're already doing. And I say that a lot, but the rules are useful, and you may want to do some advanced stuff with how to modulate from key to key and understanding how other people have achieved magical sounding things in their music. And you don't necessarily need to know what they're doing or how to describe it to start listening to that stuff and start applying it to your tunes. If you like a melody in a song, do variations on it. The masters do this. If you like a chord progression and you've figured out how to make chords, listen to those chord progressions and adopt them for yourselves and see how the melody goes. But don't wait till you have a collection of vintage synths the size of a room connected to a mixer and a recording system to start being a musician. Just be, get into it, start.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, yeah, man, totally. I'm going to echo, you're learning a language, but the funny thing about the language is it's more than just language. It is this really strange, multiple dimensional communication system that no one really understands, but everybody understands it. So because you're using this new form of communication, start with gaga goo goo. And that is like, start wiring your brain musically. And the way you do that is by humming and by singing, and then by not necessarily scatting, but whatever it is, that start doing that, because you got to have fun and you got to be cheeky. You've got to have fun because you're exercising an area in your brain, which is language. 1, fuck around. You must fuck around. 2, I would then be considering going to a thrift shop and getting the cheapest piece of shit keyboard you can get your hands on, a little tiny thing. Don't use an app, because apps are complicated. And apps don't have wicked Mamba and Samba and Disco 16 beats. You got to have that shit. So buy one of those things for like $10 and fuck around. Oh, when I push these 3 keys, it makes me feel happy. When I push these 3 keys, it makes me feel sad. Jen, welcome. Alistair, welcome. Thanks for your chat last week. Foxtrot. Jen, thank you for your chat. My grandma's organ used to have Foxtrot. Oh my God. So it had a Maestro analog drum machine built into it. I had no idea how good this piece of shit organ was. But it was like, and it sounded like, in fact, they kind of looked like CS78. And it sounded like a CS78. And it had cockroaches and spiders living in it. The spiders ate the cockroaches. Unfortunately, I'd rather have cockroaches. TD would not like me saying that her organ had cockroaches in it. But that thing had the funkiest fucking drum machine. And they were the big switches. They looked like Jean-Michel Jarre using a fucking CR78. Anyway, and it sounded like, the pads from Oxygen. Where is the Element organ? Wasn't an Element though. But oh God, wait a ton. I digress. And the foot, the pedals, it was all pure analog, man. And they were the biggest, fattest fucking sound I've ever heard. Like, boom, boom, beautiful. Fuck around. And what you might want to, a great way to fuck around is find a song that you like. For me, it was Duran Duran. Find out what they're working, how they're playing it, and then 3 bars later, you're off doing something else. Great. Fuck around. And then you might learn some harmony, and then you might start getting into synthesizers. I bring this up because thank you, Julius. Wires your brain? Yes, it does wire your brain. I recently started understanding tunes from my washing machine. It hums in G sharp. Okay, there's an Angelspit track that is machine. What is it? It's on Blood Death Ivory. It's a recording of the washing machine. It had a dryer cycle that was like go crazy. That was in the chorus, and then in the verse it was the washing machine. I stuck the Rode right inside the fucking thing. I couldn't open the thing because you've got to have the door shut for it to work. But anyway, but my point is that you've got to fuck around and you've got to have fun with it. And this is going to take a long time. So, because you hear these beautiful French love poems or Arabic love poems, and you go, I want to fucking verbalize an Arabic love poem. But for you to do that, I want to write this shit. You have to become fluent in Arabic, and you have to understand all of these things about the the technicalities of a language before you can talk in it. And that starts with gaga guga. And then I want to go to the shop. And then, you know what I mean? As far as like the question I really had, because, I think about so many people, I think about how fucking daunting it is these days to start making music. Because you got all these YouTubers yelling at you saying, oh, you need this piece of gear. Oh, it's got auto complements. Blah, 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 blah. So you need some really fucking in-depth technology. Then you have to understand what an arpeggiator actually is and what all of this fucking bullshit means. And the computers, it's like, oh God, too much. You got to fuck around. And I lost my train of thought. Does somebody else want to jump in right now? The resonator.
Yeah. The thing, like you mentioned, and then get a synthesizer, and it just sparked something in my brain that reminded me, you might start with the synthesizer. That's fine. Like, I don't think either Carl or I were trying to say this is the order of things you must do it in, because if you're fascinated by the synthesizer and you want to make electronic loops, there's a lot of, like you said, Carl, go on secondhand store and start buying cheap stuff. It'll be extremely rewarding. And the other thing that I sort of forgot is I'm like doing an anti-teacher kind of angle there, but I didn't mean it that way. Like, get lessons. Get lots of lessons about a lot of things. Like, start with an expert that knows the stuff and is really good at communicating about how to do these things. And if that's just videos on the topic, you could start with that. But if you can get a personal guide in any of the things that you're interested in, you can start somewhere, and it doesn't have to be the instrument that you end up becoming proficient at, but a way to get through the challenging hurdles at the beginning of the goo goo gaga phase that you're talking about is to have a Sherpa, have a rabbi, have a guide there that's like, yeah, that's going to hurt because you don't have calluses. You don't have the dexterity to do that thing yet. Do this and it'll get you there in a week or in a couple of days. And those kinds of encouragement and putting a few of the steps in order can be really helpful. And also, no, yeah, that's a stopping point, like to get somebody.
Yes, scales, getting into that stuff. Like, I really agree. Like, taking a fundamental approach to learning music, and it's going to increase a lot of time. Like it's going to save you a lot of time. But it's also very important that you keep fucking around.
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, it's really interesting with music that, music is about breaking rules, but you got to know what the rules are before you break them. And it's my mind's blowing. Brett, I want to hear how your mind's blowing. Go.
Hey, how's it going? Um, so for me, yeah, that whole Goo Goo Gaga phase, if you want to call it, literally, that's kind of been my thing since I was a kid. Before fifth grade, I would just kind of do my own thing. Couldn't record anything to make up songs, entertain myself while I was goofing off with other stuff. In fifth grade, though, and this goes to the point of if you're interested in music, consider lessons. But in fifth grade for me was introduction to the snare drum, and with it, came knowledge of orchestral music, and eventually marching as well, and those beats and whatnot really very much became part of my library. And if there's things like that, don't be scared. Go get, I would jam with buddies who were at guitar lessons. Actually, that's how we formed a band. It works out well.
Thank you very much. Yes. Aaron?
Yeah, I would echo the sentiment out there that comparison is the thief of joy. So there are many people that see shit with too much polish. It's got too much going on. And by extension, people are like, oh man, well, I'm just trying to get started in music. But, if I don't have something that's going to be, A plus, that's going to be the best thing in the history of ever, then why bother? And, it can be hard to get out of that. But I would encourage that you seek out the people that are not trying to hawk gear to you. They ain't trying to fucking sell you. It's not use my name for my discount fucking horse shit, and start looking up the lyrics for like or looking up the videos of the people that inspire you and kind of see what kind of fun shit that they do with their craft, if that makes sense. It's like literally the second somebody tries to start hawking you gear, click off their fucking shit and it doesn't add value to what you're doing. Okay. If I were to steer it cinematically, I started looking toward more and more things to where everyone wants to sell you everything under the sun. But when I started finding more and more videos of people being like, here's why your lighting might look kind of crummy. And I'd say, oh, cool. Take down a note. Here's what you can do to add layers and visual effects. Oh, cool. That adds value. At no point are they fucking with me to try to upsell me, upcharge me, i.e. have too much fucking polish, And then eventually with enough of those videos, you start making your own mind up. You start realizing, you know what? This doesn't have to be the best thing or the best thing, but it's a hell of a starting point, or they're little itty bitty, pieces that you could add into your craft. And the last thing I'll say is maybe it's not time to crank the full song out, if that is your burden, if that is your stumbling block. Maybe you go, you know what? I'm just going to nail this fucking instrumental, I'm going to make this instrumental as badass as I possibly can. And if I'm hung up on the lyrics, then cool. I'll sequester the lyrics and it's fucking full speed ahead on the instrumental. That might work for you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's Kung Fu, man. It's Kung Fu. And it's all about, you see Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee or fucking Donnie Yen moving and you go, I want to do that. But you got to understand there's a lot of push-ups on your knuckles and there's a lot of training and there's a lot of interacting with other martial artists that is going to enable you to get to that point. And we're talking years and years and years and years and years, building up muscle in your brain. I remember when I got into university for composition, the songs I played them were awful. They were terrible. And, they said they let me in because they said I look back on it and they were terrible, and I remember at the time they weren't all that terrible, but I was the only guy who was like using MIDI stuff, like really using it, and because it was pretty fucking caveman back then. But they said how I had a really rudimentary basic grasp of music, how it all gets put together and how it is inventive. And, I had musicianship. I had sixth grade musicianship under my belt. I was studying Debussy and Brahms and all of that shit. So I knew that stuff. But I don't know, man, it's really interesting that when you go, I got to university, the first thing, sorry, Ivan, I'll be quick. I had to try and forget all that shit, because now we're studying jazz and we're doing all of this other stuff. And then as soon as I got out of university, I had to forget everything from university. I had to purposely try and forget it because it was getting in my way of creating music. If you're doing music for a game or a Toyota ad or your album, they don't give a shit about Brahms. They just want a catchy tune that does the fucking job. Ivan, what do you think?
Well, I think a few things. First, doing knuckle push-ups. Don't don't ever feel bad about just playing scales because it's actually pretty useful. Especially when you start like messing with like what mode your scale's in. And or more importantly, like you're switching between so that you're exercising remembering how to find keys. And then over on YouTube or in YouTube land, like there is a like couple of classes of types of videos floating around YouTube land that are really when you're working on music is way more useful. I mean, we can watch gear tube videos all day, and mostly they're just there to sell you a plugin or some sort of piece of gear, and sure, that's nice and all, but at the same time, like there's a lot of YouTube content out there that is pick a song, here's how you play it. Usually they're also trying to sell you on the idea of getting lessons from them. The quality of the video will determine how interested you are in following through on that. But like being able to sit down and here's the notes, or here's a technique for playing those notes. And there's a whole bunch of videos in the like kind of here's your style, and here's how you write a bass line for it here, or here's a style and here's how you drew the drums for it here. And like those are they're all really handy. They're good exercise. Also, I'm just gonna point out that like Coil never spent a lot of time worrying about like getting the math right.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to go in after you, Aaron. What do you think, Razi?
The kinds of videos that I think you're talking about should also probably be regarded as sort of advanced or entertainment, but not part of learning necessarily. Like if we're talking about just getting over the hurdle of fundamentals and starting to be a musician, some of those can be the counterproductivity that I think Carl introduced this topic to point out. Like keep your head straight about the purpose of watching these videos and the purpose of practice, and do them with intention. And that's a specific thing. Like I'm already worried about setting up rules and frameworks for how to approach music in a discussion of how not to. But if you're going to be doing scales, what does that mean? Why are you doing scales? Are you playing them cleanly with a metronome? Are you learning the different scales and how they're played so you can play them faster? Are you learning how to incorporate them against each other with harmony? Like purpose is important, because I've spent a lot of time playing scales for 5 seconds at a time, and all I do is learn how badly I already know how to play the scale on guitar. Like I still have the wrong picking direction and the poor fingering that I always had. It's not actually progressing any. But then every once in a while, there's the moment where you go, okay, I'm going to learn something, I'm going to change something, I'm going to grow somewhere, I'm going to figure something out. And you do set it up so that, okay, I'm going to learn it in minor, I'm going to learn the second position version of it. And you think what you're setting out to do, you apply some discipline to do it, and you actually come out on the other side having grown or learned something. And that's like weird to even have to say it. But the number of hours I've personally spent not doing it that way, and just like, I am doing a scale, it's pentatonic, not getting anywhere from it, or coming out on the other side of having practiced it with something useful that I can do more with later or feel good about. Yeah. It takes some personal intervention. And the same thing with watching these videos, is you can get very lost in, I just, spent hours watching somebody's description of how they made a particular respace or something, and you don't have the synthesizer that does it, but you were entertained. As long as you went into it with an eye toward just getting the vocabulary, I suppose that's okay, but choose wisely where you start. Or don't, and fuck around. I mean, that's really an important aspect of doing it too. Aaron, Google Pixel 6a. What is on your mind?
Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird thought experiment, but I've found myself in the past listening to a lot of instrumentals from things, or things that are just specifically instrumentals to bridge tracks. But lyrics just kind of come to the forefront of my mind. They didn't intend for them to have lyrics. Maybe they never would have lyrics. If I were to make it more concrete, The Birthday Massacre and Ladytron are very prone to having these sweeping instrumentals or even up-tempo instrumentals, but lyrics just kind of fit into a slot, you know? And those are some of the coolest, like, happy accidents that I've seen, to where you get somebody that really is in love with the craft and it clicks and they go, you know what? This instrumental would marry perfectly with this completely different band. And they find that, you know, that mashup or that lyrics that sync and whatever. There's no reason why you can't do it for yours, is what I'm ultimately steering at. Is if you've crafted all these lyrics and yada 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 yada, then you go, you know what, you know, I don't know if that'll ever see the light of day, but maybe I don't transpose it on the original instrumental that it was kind of anchored on. I can kind of, you know, move that instrumental, truncate it, shove it to the side, you know, and then build my instrumental and whatever else. It's a totally different approach, but it might beat out that creative rut if you're just sitting there with both fists on the side of your head, just, you know, looking at your synthesizer going, you need to fix my life, you little shit, because right now the instrumentals don't match the lyrics. So like I said, you may be able to write lyrics to another thing and then surgically transpose it onto your thing.
Brilliantness, thank you. Here's some thoughts. How much time do you have to dedicate to this? And what time can you free up to dedicate to this? That means that you're wasting a whole bunch of time on the internet. So that's got to go. So yay, step one, before we've even started, there's discipline involved. There's discipline so you can fuck around. Best type of discipline. I hear your pain on scales, and I absolutely agree. I'd like to actually also offer something fun about scales, that it's training your brain to listen, to hear. It's training your fingies, and it's connecting your brain to your fingies to the musicality and blah, blah, blah. But something else is that the hardest thing in the world is to find inspiration, because it never comes. And motivation, for me, it rarely comes. And motivation is real fucking hard. Scales are a great way to get motivated, because you might start doing scales and you might get quarter, 3 minutes into it. And it's like, hey, you know what? There's a cool little melody here. Great, go with it. If you have something to fall back on, and this is where writing a notepad or something saying, if you are brain locked, try these things. One of them could be sweeping the floor. Scales is great. Also, when you start doing scales, like in 10 years' time, they may remind you of where you are now at the beginnings of your musical, right now, where it's all new and it's all exciting and you're falling in love for the first time with this trans-dimensional, wonderful beast thing. Scales and things like that will take you back, and they may help jog your memory. I often talk about the importance of finding a smell like lavender or whatever a smell is that will help you get in the mood and help you remind you of the mood in the years to come. That when you smell cinnamon, it's time to make music, or vanilla, or whatever that smell is. somebody brought something up before. Yeah, scales and rudiments are a way to kickstart the creative brain. Thank you, Brett. Exciting that primes it primes the pump. And it's great. And even thanks, Julius. Even the concept, the act of lighting an incense might be enough, or making a coffee. And a fun thing to do as well is say, I have the special coffee that I drink for music, and it might be this flavor. And every time you taste that, your brain starts going into, muscle memory mode. Somebody brought up before, like, some people watch stuff when they're making music. And that's a really interesting idea. Like, what do you watch? In the early days of Angelspit, I used to watch porn and horror. I'm like really freaky, crazy, Japanese, weird. What the fuck is this horror porn? People weren't dying, but actually, Volpe used to work in a sex shop, and she had all the under counter stuff. I didn't like it. I don't like scary stuff. I just like seeing stuff that's like, oh, it ignites a part of your brain. Same with horror, like The Grudge and stuff like that. It ignites a part of your brain that puts you into a different decision-making process. I got a bunch of videos from The Liar, and it's basically him video jamming, and they're all VHSs. And it's just weird shit. And just having this weird shit. And thank you again, Aaron, for the lights. They will be incorporated into the creation of making a weird environment. That was weird. Razi, what are you thinking?
Man, I don't want to pull it back to that pull it back from that visuals topic, because I think there's a lot to talk about. But before we totally abandon this topic of scales, since Carl and Brett both have maybe some specific ideas about what that means, what are we doing when we do scales, and what are the scales? How do you do scales? Is that a specific regimen with a plan? When you think doing scales, what are you doing?
I'm going majors up the keyboard, chromatic by chromatic. Da 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 da. Also with your vocals as well. And I will say, if you want to sing, do fucking scales. You are singing goddamn scales. That's important. Because if fucking Dave Gahan does it, we should all do it.
You just sparked my brain. I was so attached to the guitar neck, which once you've learned the scale pattern, moving it up a half step doesn't make any difference. It's still the same pattern. Obviously, voice range and keyboard, the scale changes.
Yeah.
Every time you move it a half step. So that's a whole different thing.
And that's and that ignites things.
Mm-hmm.
And it also starts training your brain to thinking in equal temperament. And in time, off you go somewhere else. Brett, what do you think?
Yeah, so when I'm typically doing it, a lot of times I'm also working. So what it is for me is both creative, but it's also practice, and it's also a mechanism for me to maintain or control ADD. So I do this a lot, and for a lot of different reasons. And for me, it's kind of like an all-day thing. I'm constantly drumming. I can't stop if I wanted to. And when I'm doing that, I'm actually going through different rudiments. Paradiddles are my favorite. When I'm sitting around, I've got a little acoustic guitar that sits right there, a little Travelers thing. I'll sit there and I'll do chords, and then I'll do those patterns, and I'll keep doing them quickly and just going up and down. And what I find about it, the cool thing is it gives me ideas for later. You make happy accidents because, one, your focus is kind of split between things a little bit. You are relying on muscle memory. So it engages those parts of your brain that you need for the moment for a variety of reasons. And then, I don't know, for me, it's kind of like, why does a person do jumping jacks? It's just exercise. It's good for you. It feels good.
Thank you. And I'll echo the, I think also getting into, I think doing vocal scales is important. because your voice, whether you're singing or not, as Resi, as you said earlier, it's a part of the goo goo gaga la la thing, that your brain is the thing that makes music, and subconsciously it comes through your fingers or whatever, and maybe there's a whole bunch of magic and your whole body does. You know what? I don't know. But another thing to be practicing as well is basic rhythm stuff. And that might be watching a clock or something for 1 minute, tapping in time with it, just staying on that beat. Because the best, greatest way to express music is directly through your body. It's not painting bricks on a screen and pushing the little green play button. It's your body. Because you're talking to bodies. You're not talking to computers. You're talking to bodies. Razi, what do you think?
I don't know if this is related. 30 seconds ago, I wouldn't have thought it was, but I have this thing I do when I hit the microwave start button. That 120 BPM is pretty ingrained from every time you fire up a drum machine or a DAW. It's like we know 60 BPM really well. And a lot of time I'll keep it going in my head and I'll go and do something else. And like 1 out of 20 times, I'll land on 5, 4, 3, 2, beep, beep, beep. And I just get it. It's really fucking funny and odd feeling to bother mentioning. But anyway, Brett, you mentioned practicing drum rudiments, and that is like really gratifying to have either a backing track without drums in it, like some musician stuff, or just even playing with a metronome. I totally forgot about that, and I haven't been attending to it, but practicing your sticking rudiments and stuff is like, yep, get the paradiddles. It's good stuff, even with or without the like samples that you're triggering or something, but hitting like an analog source like the Simmons pads for me is like, you start introducing dynamics and even in a place where I'm not always at liberty to play, loud drums in a room. This is a pretty good compromise for that. But bringing that tempo consciousness to your other stuff also. So when you're doing scales, combining it with a metronome, so your goal might be doing those scales in time accurately. And yeah, like that's another dimension of time. Yeah, there it is.
Isn't it fascinating? Thank you. Isn't it fascinating how, like, as we're talking here, I totally understand how someone who's just getting into music is going, where do I fucking start? Because it's like you're saying, I want to explore the night sky. Well, do you want to look at asteroids? Do you want to enjoy the particles that are like 1 every meter? Do you want to look at nebula? Do you want to look at what? Like the universe of sound and music. And they're listening to the fucking Dune soundtrack by Hans Zimmer going, I want to do that. I've been doing this for 30 years. I want to do that too. And I still haven't figured out how. So, but that's exciting because I figured out all this other shit on the way. So, yeah, it's crazy. Do we want to like fling back to talking about music, what you watch? Because Diana watches nature documentaries. I used to watch Price Planet 9000. I had this big loop of YouTube videos, which are the paintings of like Sid Mead and Chris Foss and those 70s Isaac Asimov covers that I fucking love. And I would have them in super slowed down, and I just have them clocking over. Just because they're beautiful and spacey and, pictures of James Webb. Does anybody else have, we could throw something in there? UFO stuff. Yeah, now you're talking. What do you got? Well, yeah, throw it in. Like what? But then you get some influencer talking about, it's like, fuck off.
Yeah, I mean, it's stupid, but yeah, it's always fun to imagine, and more, it's kind of like, okay, what drives me is the curiosity of the technology behind it. It's the same sort of drive that works musically. It's like, how does that work? And like the chord you brought up last week, playing with that. It's the same sort of feeling. I don't take anything too serious.
So did you play with that Tristan chord?
I did.
How did you feel about it?
I like it. It's very powerful. It's very dynamic, and it takes on different characters depending on the keys you're using. I mean, it's a trip. I haven't made anything like other than just kind of like a practice and a jam. I also played it deconstructed, and that's a lot of fun as well. It's good stuff.
Okay, so sideline, the Ice Planet 9000 chord, which I have to stop using because I use it too much, and I've decided I'm going to use my voice on the next album. The next Ice Planet 9000, which is number 3, kickstarts maybe in a week, and obviously Patreon members get a free copy. And Brett, the video for that's got your painting.
Hell yeah,
The
I've seen it.
Just dropped. Yeah. Thank you again. So, fuck, I forgot what I was talking about. What was I talking about? Next Ice Planet 9000 thing kickstarts in about a week or so. But the album number 4, I want to use my voice because I've been listening to. I don't like M83. I don't like M83 because they're fucking awesome. They're bloody brilliant, and that's why I hate them. And I've also been listening to, Air and Kate Bush and Enya because I like Enya. Fuck you. There's a range in my voice that's really kind of breathy and sweet and kind of rough. And I'm thinking I really want to use that in some kind of speaking some beautiful, colossal alien tongue in these beautiful, huge harmonies and stuff. And I was thinking I should do that. The Ice Planet 9000, that's right, Julius. Yes, Enya. The Ice Planet 9000 chord I love is called a stacked major third. So it's C, E, and G sharp. So that's an augmented chord. And the great thing about that is that if you play C, E, and G sharp, C, E, don't ask me to sing the G sharp because I can't. G sharp, there it is. You can then play that, and if you run you'll hear it. It's this huge thing. Then when you start moving, if you build an arpeggiator over that, it's like it's fucking space shit. You might set up a chord. We were talking a bit about sound design last week, that each note in that chord is kind of waving in and out, whether it's an LFO or something, at a slightly different rate. So if you play this chord with a sound like that, each note's going to be sparking differently. And the cool thing about it is that when you go, okay, well, the C and the E, that's a major third. The E to the G sharp, that's a major third. The A to the G sharp is kind of like a major 6. That's where the elves live. The elves live in the major 6. There's all of these really pretty things going on. And then you look at it and you say, well, I can play over the top of that C major, kind of, E major, kind of, A minor, kind of, D flat minor, kind of, A flat major, kind of. And you start getting all of these really pretty things moving while it's sustaining that thing. And there's going to be harmonic clashes in there. And you want them because they are pushing the openness of the universe. So that's all over the album that's kickstarting now. And this is also the shit I play live in Ice Planet. Really fun stuff. And, there's so many things going on. And then you play it to someone and you go, oh yeah, that's a C sustained 6, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, clear your mind from this shit. Then you might say, oh, I want to create a scale that's going to fit that. Well, that could be a whole tone scale, or it could be a C with a, well, no, you can't do that. Maybe a whole tone scale. Play with whole tone scales, man. Freeze your mind. So a whole tone scale would be C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, B, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, C. So each note is a whole tone Because you know in a normal scale how there's that little semitone like C, D, E, F, E, F, E, F. That's a semitone. And also B, C, B, C, B, C, semitone. We don't want semitone, so it's all going to be whole tone. So it's going to be C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, C. And when you start doing that over these chords and stuff, there's something in your brain that gets unlocked. It's fucking beautiful. Yeah, awesome. I know their sax player. I used to know the sax player. In LA, you know everyone. What a wank. Sorry, I was wanking. And they're M83, they're exceptionally good fucking musicians. Like, they're all like hardcore ninja jazz people. Yeah, so always pushing his veggie. Razzie, I was prattling. I'm sorry, talk to me.
No, that's cool. Sort of an antithesis to the Tristan chord, maybe. I don't know if you're hip to it, man, but the Steely Dan Mu major.
What is this?
First, second, major third, fifth. It's like an add two or kind of a sus, but it's like a GABD. It's a really floaty, non-committal.
Wait, first,
There's some
second,
beauty in it.
major
Yeah, one,
third.
two, major third, five. Yeah.
That's nice.
It's it evokes a lot of slightly jazzy in a way kind of vibe, but it's also just a very wistful and open. Brett's got a link to it. Was that the hawkwright.co.uk page by any chance? I guess I could look.
Yes.
I don't have anything connected to throw that chord on there, but
Yeah, it's a 9. There. Oh, that's so pretty.
depends on which way you voice it and stuff, but it can be used in a very...
Now, and this is another really important thing as well. Thank you for the fuck everything. I hate my life. Hold on, I'm trying to put this in the things, but everything hates me. It's all about the voicing. Oh, Brett, thank you very much. Yeah, it's all about the voicing. Hold on, I'm gonna make a note of this because this is great shit, mate. When you start, instead of it being a tonal cluster, and tonal clusters are great, don't get me wrong, but when you go C, E, G with a D, D, up the top, I can't sing the D because I don't care. It becomes these really pretty things, or you might cluster the C and the D together or something like that. That's a very pretty chord. Steely Dan. Why did they call their band that? I don't care. Somebody tell me something amazing.
You do know why they called it that.
No, is it sexual?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's from Burroughs' story, I think. Naked
Get
Lunch
outta
or something,
here.
maybe? I don't know. Yeah, it's a dildo.
Oh, that's not in the Naked Lunch. I know the Naked Lunch inside out.
I don't, but I'm,
Great movie.
fairly confident that it is one of those stories. But yeah.
Great movie. Yeah, I need to, there you go. Okay, that's great. Yeah, we were talking about, so while we're on the subject of 70s rock, I'm going to sing something to you, and then I want everybody in the comments to write down what the next line is. And that includes everybody here. Are you ready? Blinded by the light. What's the next line? Don't Google it. Don't fucking Google it. So this is one of the greatest misheard lyrics. Oh, fucking hell, Aaron, if you're Googling this, I'm coming to your house and I'm going to hit you with a dildo. You just Googled that, didn't you, Resi? You Googled it. You Googled it. You
Absolutely
Googled it.
not. I Googled
You
it
fucking
6 years
Googled
ago, 15 years
fucking
ago.
Googled it. Well, nevertheless, you Googled it.
It's common lore, and it goes in the "Excuse Me While I Kiss This Guy" canon of misheard
Yes.
lyrics.
Yes.
Wrapped up like a douche,
Yeah. Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah. But what's fascinating is nobody knows. And it's yes, it is revved up like a douche, which is now, is that a brand of car or is that a form of revving up a car?
I don't think that the author had a meaning.
But
specific.
no,
I think
there's
that's what's
also
needed.
like the Beach Boys has got she's my little deuce scoop. You don't know what I got. It's either a brand of a car, or you didn't know that.
I thought he said something about a roamer in the night.
No,
Like,
wrong.
Runner, but yeah.
Wrong.
And I wasn't Googling it. I just can't type and be on the screen at the same time because I'm
Okay,
not
well,
that technologically advanced on Zoom.
that's grim problems. So what you guys can tell me is what the fuck a deuce is. I thought it was a car, but my point is, no one fucking knows. No one knows. And same with like, is this something that is? I don't want to Google it. So is it a Ford? Apparently, Jen. Ford Deuce. You know, I must have missed the advertising campaign for a new Ford Deuce. Right, so it's a Ford. It's a Ford. There you go. And it was in the 60s, and apparently it was a very fast car because the Beach Boys sung about it as well. There you go. Point being, no one fucking listens to lyrics. It's the shapes of words. 1932? 1932. Really? Jen says it was out in 1932. I mean, like, that makes sense because when it came around in the 60s and 70s, it would have been 30, 40 years old. Oh my God. There you go. Too much. Okay, Aaron, go.
Oh, no, it's funny in a weird way thinking about that because if you start digging in, it'd be like, oh yeah, that song fucking slammed in the 80s or it had an amazing cover like in the 90s. And you start realizing more and more if you backtrack something about the 30s, there's this echo chain. It started in the 30s, it got covered or completely reshaped in the 80s, and then it got covered yet again. So there are times where you might walk in, and it's not to knock a band. Like for the longest time, I didn't know that Enjoy the Silence was not a Lacuna Coil song. I know, Pitchfork Mobs. Oh my fucking God, Down with Grimm. But at that time, I wasn't such an avid listener of all these different genres. And then all of a sudden, Enjoy the Silence came out. But to that end, they've completely crafted that song to where it's fucking amazing. And they weren't going, for a cookie cutter copy. Like they actually, in my opinion, reinvented so much of that song and made it really dynamic. So,
Nobody reinvents Depeche Mode. Thank you.
but there could be fun in that. This all circles back to if you're in a rut, if you're fucking angry, if you're this, if you're that, just like you guys humming and kind of bebopping around while you're cooking or doing shit in the apartment, who's to say you can't, fucking do a cover of a song that you like, That's a welcome to escape to fucking, work on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I will say that our conversation has reached a circle because Steely Dan to Naked Lunch to Bug Powder Dust to Bomb the Bass to Depeche Mode's Exciter. Bomb the Bass, great fucking track. Okay, so everybody is still really talking about deuces, and there you go. But thank you, Aaron. And once again, that's our second reference to Depeche Mode today, because we did say Dave Gahan does chords. Depeche Mode 2, Steely Dan 1. William Burroughs win. Does anybody else want to talk about any other stupid shit right now? Ivan, are you looking at Reverb right now? You sure? Ivan, are you looking at Reverb right now? Yes. It's really, Aaron, go.
He's not looking at Reverb. He's looking at Decay, Attack and Release. No, sister chain websites to Reverb. I don't know. Did you want to dive into a new topic, or are we just riffing? Or
well, yeah, I'd love to talk about. What do you got in mind? You're carrying a book there, and it looks really intimidating.
Yes, I have the receipts, as they say. They don't say that anymore. What I have found to be really freeing and pretty cool lately when it comes to promotion, because nobody likes promotion, I have fragmented instrumentals from Wicked Stories as I'm doing them to where I don't want to be ultra repetitive. I don't want it to be the same thing. I don't want it to be the same 10 seconds over and over again, nor do I want it to be the same fucking visuals over and over again. So even if it's a different filter shade over the visuals, even if it's different chunks of the song, I've been obsessed with like fragmentation, to where when it's on a feed, if it sounds repetitive, people are prone to probably skip it, or their brain tricks them and go, I already saw that. But then that might have been a post from, just that morning instead of earlier in the week. I digress from the point. Instead of being repetitious, I've gotten to a point where I've fragmented it. So I might be like, here's the first 10 seconds of this Wicked Stories instrumental paired with said clip. And then later on in the week, I'm still wanting to promote the shit out of it, but I've grabbed the middle of the song when it starts to take more of a twist or a dive and it starts to get more dynamic. And then I also change just the visual screen on it, I didn't completely overhaul everything, but essentially what I'm trying to encourage is, explore your tracks, and especially ones that if you think the instrumental's working but the lyrics aren't working, just take the instrumental to help promote your shit, because content is content is content. So just have stuff to where you can break these little fragments off, sequester them onto a drive, throw them on fucking Google, put them on Dropbox, do whatever you got to do. And then you could also type your little blurb to where it's already ready to go, So when it comes to promotion day or echoing, that thing, you don't have to sit there, again, with your head in your hands, staring at the keyboard, being like, what the fuck do I need to type here? But yeah, just, that's my recent little obsession.
I appreciate this obsession. It's very interesting that I wonder constantly, how often should I be like creating something? And I don't know, it's an endlessly weird thing. Like, we've got I don't understand how it works anymore. Our promotion and push on this new gig, for example, has been much less than the first one. And according to the numbers, we've sold, or we have aligned more tickets. More tickets have been assigned. And I don't understand how it works anymore. I hear people talking about, oh, you do this, you do this, you do this. I want to go to those influencers' place and I want to do bad things to them, and video it and then make music to that. Involving a Japanese horse demon who's trapped in a well and crawls out through their TV after they called them a week previously. And then I run away and went to Scoop, listening to Depeche Mode. Very high on bug powder dust. But I just don't actually fucking know. So, yeah. Anyway, there you go. God help me. That's your cue.
Oh, I'm no
Okay.
no guy.
Well, you put your little hand up there.
And that I did. Yeah, it is definitely a results may vary, which doesn't sound super encouraging. But I just kind of vary it. I kind of mix it up. I probably say 2/3 of the time I'm like, these are my hashtags, copy paste. Copy paste, maybe add an extra one. Cool beans. Because I'm trying to train the internet to unfuck itself and be able to find me, right? I want my Google search page to be, fuckload of Grim Reaper for hire. Bing bong, cool. And then other times I get into fuck it, send it mode because I've done one that I wanted to do, or I don't have a witty blurb for it, or I don't want to come up with fucking a bunch of hashtags. So I just say fuck it, send it, and I put no hashtags on it. And then it's like, wow, you reached like all these new followers. So it is a dice roll. Like I said, I like the 2/3 split. That seems to be very, very helpful for me. It may not be helpful for everybody, but fucking why not? Why not try it? Like I said, 2/3 of the time, hone your craft, have your shit pre-built, copy paste, easy day. Other times, fuck it, send it, because you don't know what kind of results it's going to yield.
Have you ever thought about just doing videos where it's you talking with not wearing a mask, and then you cut it up? Like you really edit it up. So you might go on a 3-minute rant, then you cut it up, and it's you basically swearing, getting angry, waving your arms around. That sort of thing could be really interesting, because the wonderful bullshittery about is that it's no ongoing internet outages. Yeah, I hear you, Resi. Is that when people see an actual face, and what's difficult about your stuff is that a lot of it relies on a mask. I'm quite certain that the internet goes, oh, mask, nah. Oh, human face, oh yeah. And that's difficult because character driven and everything else. And I know you're trying to keep some kind of anonymity in me. But perhaps if you devised a character who was like the PR guy, who was actually Aaron, just going on some rant. Something like that might be interesting, because the internet, like I've always noticed, two things the internet likes. Hey, internet, fuck you. Two things the internet likes are human faces and cats. Like literally, I am fucking certain that the AIs go, oh, it's a cat. I recognize that as a cat. My phone can now tell the difference between my cats. Actually, it could do that a few years ago. It would go, oh, here's Shaya, here's Mordecai, now here's Frank. Tells the difference. Yeah, there you go. That's all.
No, there's truth in that, because there are times where I want to fuck around and I'm like, let me try this trend filter thing, where it's gonna do a Beetlejuice screen, or it's gonna, it's gonna mildly adapt something. It tells me to fuck right off if I'm wearing a mask. But the second you take that mask off, it's like, ooh, I found your face. Fucking, here we go. They're gonna hit the turbo and they're gonna do all the things. No, you're not inherently wrong with that. And I think I do need to do a little bit more of this is the creator behind the craft type deal. I've steered that more toward the Patreon crowd for like behind the scenes, but I have found a happier balance lately with being like, okay, Patreon gets the first crack, because I feel that, that is the value of what I bring. I owe it to you. First crack. Then it could go out to internet land, and it could be the casual consumer that, dials into XYZ, oftentimes with no hashtags. It's crazy. The amount of foot traffic I have lately, it's not because I've honed in a million hashtags. That just helps me be found in a search, But if I just say, fuck it, send it, I get a lot of new people that are just like, oh, hey, I didn't know this was a whole thing. And then they start going into the backlog, and I'm not whoring myself out for likes, but it's weird how that like ratchets up to like 10 likes in a row, and I did fuck all to promote it. You know what I mean? I didn't put extra shit on there. I didn't post 5 times a week. I just said no hashtags, and all of a sudden all these people are like, hey, man. So,
yes. Weird. It is very weird, and I don't understand. Does anybody else want to talk about something amazing? Said Carl, subtly trying to get off internet because it really fucking depresses me. But we can talk about this if you feel this is important. Or we could talk about, because I was hoping Ivan was looking at fucking Reverb. So there's another site called Aaron that is a competitor to Reverb. Attack Decay. Is that a thing?
Oh no, I was just fucking around. But
well, you shouldn't have done that, because like a whole bunch of people just got very excited. Okay, what are we going to talk about? Let's go. Frank had a check up this week. They found that he's part Panther, and we got his chip. And it's really interesting. I've got this really weird kind of debacle. I can't contact the chip, his original owners. He was chipped, and then I got him like a week later. I found him on the street a week later. I mean, because of his nature, they don't think he was a stray. They think he was definitely a pampered, loved guy. So I want to contact them and say, hey, Frank's okay, but if you want him back, you get me as well. But it's very interesting. And there's no laws about this. Like if I've paid for his vaccinations and everything else, and I am in now due care of him, he's legally mine. But I need paperwork for that. Anyway, there you go. Who cares? Frank is the best. No, he's not Bengal. Everybody with a fucking tabby goes, oh, he's got Bengal in him. He's not Bengal. He's Panther. There's a big fucking difference. And when he hunts, it becomes obvious. They are part Asian leopard cat. Yeah, but Frank's part fucking mountain lion. Ruthless. Anyway, who is a total fucking meth addict as far as catnip? Catnip. There was a cat joke for the love of God. What, Aaron? Fuck.
Well, you talking about topics to bring up and shit.
Let's go. What do you got?
So, as much as everyone hates the phone time and whatever else, I would circle back to the thing I was talking about earlier, where you start fragmenting stuff and you start putting stuff up. In other words, lately I found myself, if I'm just doom scrolling and I get through 3 to 4 videos, I'm just like, fuck this, close it out, throw it away, and I go into editing mode. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just that I'm burnt out by what I'm seeing on the screen, or I'm seeing stuff that's complete shit, and I'm like, you know what? In a weird way, it kind of triggers me to think I can do better, or I should be doing something for Grimm, and I fucking do. And that's actually, it's a weird subroutine to go off into. But what I'm getting at is, if you're gonna be, twiddling around on your phone, you might as well be doing something for your fucking thing. And I'm not saying that to be, be better and be that asshole that's reprimanding. What I mean is, it should be encouraging, to where I'm like, you know what? I could probably be doing something with this editor, with these visuals, with this thing. It doesn't have to be a grandiose fucking episode. It doesn't have to be a whole short film. It doesn't even have to be a music video, but it could be a teaser for a new character. It could be using that editor and not using the editor in a time crunch, going, holy fuck, I have to promote this right now. It's a weird way to wire your brain, but what I'm getting at is, you could plan for some of these future things that you want to do. It might not be the exact track that you're working on right now or the exact theme, but you might have had a bunch of stuff ruminating, to where you start saving them to folders and you start, building up a cache of things that you want to do. But yeah, if you're going to be playing fucking tiddlywinks on the fucking phone, you might as well just try to fuck around with just some of the filters and stuff, just start making things for the sake of it, just for shits and grins.
Oh, this is great. Thank you so much. Don't mean to cut you off. This is a part of a much bigger, really interesting conversation about, let's talk about addiction. Let's talk about internet addiction. Let's get fucking serious about this. So there's a balance in your brain where sometimes it's good to play games or solitaire or something really stupid like that, because your brain needs to turn off. I am trying to exercise a thing now where I purposely try and let myself be bored. I purposely try to achieve boredom, because I have a theory that boredom is engaging a part of my brain that has been denied. I have a theory that there is something going on in the background when I'm bored that is an important neurological process that I'm denying myself. Because I remember, like in the good old 80s and 90s, I was bored a lot of the fucking time. The problem we've got today is that it's not just about, I'm going to doom scroll, or I'm going to play solitaire or whatever. It's the addictive, I'm going to do it again, I'm going to do it again, I'm going to do it again. That's the issue. And what you said is really important. It's important to do stuff. It's important to get motivated, da-da-da-da-da. It's also important to give your fucking brain a rest. And my thing that I personally am always, when your brain just turns to mush and you can't do anything, and you just go, I might just check fucking YouTube to see what's going on, and 5 hours later you're still on there. I'm trying to find things that are, like, if I go on Tubi, for example, and I watch one episode of some stupid shit, 24 minutes, or something like that. This is what trips me. I believe it trips a lot of people as well, and it's not even really discipline. There comes a time when you have to let your brain vegetate and go, eh. But the problem is that so much of that vegetative stuff is connected to an addictive, and it's addictive process. Razi, what are you thinking?
I think avoiding algorithmic feeds is key. And it's one of the things that's possible. You mentioned YouTube. I think it violates their terms of service, and it might cheat some people out of ad revenue. But if you're not on a service that pays the creators directly, download the files and just watch them on your own terms without the next video little things. obviously something like Twitch operates only by algorithm and there's no other way to really enjoy it. But if you do have a tight social network, people repost that shit, you might have noticed. And you can avoid ever having to go to Twitch to see the latest bullshit that's on there. I'm sorry, TikTok, to see what's on there. I mean, there's things that rise above and outside and proliferate. So, also a reminder that if you're stuck on using like Instagram for any reason, there at the top there is a following instead of feed option. I always find it a relief when I remember to switch, you know, like the 6 people that I'm actually following. It's like they posted some stuff relevant about their lives and experience, and suddenly I'm in people's worlds rather than a product for the company that I'm, giving information to. So political rants aside, to treat yourself well, if a first step in breaking some of the addictive properties of these things, it's getting out of the algorithmic push. Lots of ways to do it.
Thank you. Brett, what do you think?
I was actually more curious. What do you mean by being bored? Like,
You know that feeling of being bored?
yeah, I mean, I know the feeling, but it's one of those things that even if I don't doom scroll, it's like it ends up being like a motivating force. So I don't remain bored very long.
Staring at a wall. Actually doing nothing for the purpose of doing nothing, and seeing how long I can hold the hurricane in place and let this maelstrom of madness in my brain play out.
Okay. Wow.
And boredom for me has a feeling. It's almost a taste. I can nearly taste it. It's this really, it's this really interesting feeling, and I haven't felt it in a long time, and I don't know if that's necessarily good. I think that, for starters, I recall boredom doing miracles for my anxiety, as in making it the fuck go away. And I don't know. It's just one of the many games that Carl loves to neurologically play on himself. And go ahead.
Is it like, so like if I, so one of the things I'll do is like I'll just like go outside and just, because I kind of live in the woods of sorts, just kind of watch, nature. Is that the same sort of thing?
No.
Okay.
Boredom is, anybody's welcome to interject right now and trying to find what boredom is.
I kind of wanted to. I think between Brett, what you're saying, and Carl, what you're saying, lies a different definition, and that's meditation and mindfulness. Boredom, I used to like to say, I've never been bored in my life. I have interests and I like to do things. And it sounds pompous and kind of ill-informed to say that now. But there's some truth to younger self having felt that. As a young child, when I couldn't invent stuff to do creatively, I felt boredom. But sometime around adolescence, I found interests, and boredom was no longer a thing. I could entertain myself with all of the creative pursuits, that became engaging for me. But that didn't do anything for Carl's version of introspection and mindfulness and stillness, where you're in communication with your versions of self, not in communication with external influences and forces so much. And they may be there, but you're seeking to ignore them a little bit and tune into your own thoughts and lack of stimulation.
Yes, and imagine it's tapping into that concept of when you're a kid and you're bored and you don't know what to do. That's where I'm wanting to go again. Like, imagine it's, okay, you know how you're doing something and busy, and then suddenly there's a blackout. And you realize that you can't do anything at all. You can't do anything. You can't play music. You can't do a fucking thing because there's a blackout. There is this profound moment of calm and silence, and there is this meditative moment that I get to experience not very often. Or you know what? Maybe it is similar to walking in the woods, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the unwanted, unwelcomed feeling that is uncomfortable and irritating and angry, and it just lulls you into this place. Yes, it is exactly what it was like to be a child on a rainy Sunday, and you couldn't bug your parents because they're doing something. For some reason, I want to find that again. And it's the to me it is like, because as you know, I'm really into fasting. It is a neurological equivalent to fasting, because fasting's not comfortable. Fasting is hungry, and hungry, boredom, and loneliness are these three things that don't actually exist, but your brain just sends out these warning signals. Loneliness is bad because it has really bad side effects. But hunger, when you're fasting, it goes away after a day, and there's something there, because you start going into keto and you start really eating dead cells, and your body starts rejuvenating radically. When you're lonely, you're forced to look at things and you're forced to think about things. When you're bored, I have a theory that there's something in there. There's some magic that is being overlooked, especially now. Well, maybe you start to think for yourself or something. Gee, I don't know. Rosie, what do you think?
I just had the exact feeling that you're talking about. It's remarkable that you reframed it in that way. And might have noticed my internet connection is up and down. And when about 10 minutes ago, my main ISP dropped out, the thought of not having a connection anymore and all my windows went to no connection, can't load anything, gave me a little bit of that, what am I even going to do with myself? What thing that's, not there anymore, that's been removed, like, is making me feel this way? And I don't know, that was a little taste of that I just got. So
Yeah. And it's thank you. And Tom, Alex, we fucking miss your face. Just jump on back in. And I don't care what people's Patreon status is. If you want to jump in on these, just say I want to jump in, and you're absolutely welcome to. It's really interesting how so many people talk about boredom as if it's a really bad thing. And I feel that boredom is a wall, and through that wall is something really important, that there's something neurologically important going on, that it is this cherishment, and maybe it leads to some kind of meditative oneness or something, because meditative oneness is something that we ain't good at. But yet it is really important to your mind restocking itself. Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, what I find is weird, but maybe on a parallel street to what you're talking about with boredom, is like there have been experiences where I'm working in a factory, and you're busting ass, you're going, you power shift to fifth, you stay in fifth gear like the entire day, and then there's a power outage. Doesn't matter what doesn't matter what was going on. Fuck your plans, because you can't get into the inventory system. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you have computer charge. You can't fucking do it. You can't do anything. They didn't have a backup generator. There are no emails to send. There are nothing. And also, similar territory is like if there's a hurricane. Hurricane knocks out power in your square area. Boom, gone.
Yeah.
And what I find is it's funny. Like, it's funny twofold. You have managers and bad family members that completely lose their shit when something like that happens. They don't see the joy of opportunity. They don't find peace. They don't think about what you could do next and what you could do even when you're bored. It's like they don't know how to wind down, or they don't know how to just shrug their shoulders and go, nah, fuck it. We'll break out a board game or something, or we'll paint, or we'll draw, or we'll do this, do that. I think there is a joy when everything just literally comes to a stop and everything comes to a halt,
Mm.
and you have to face it down. It's literally the power's out, or it's a stormy day. But it can be cool to like revisit that and just think, hey, you know what? Maybe this is the time just to fucking kick back and stare at the ceiling, or fold up a t-shirt and put it over your eyes and just lay down in bed and just chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
because eventually your brain might get to that point where the circuit breakers pop back on, and your brain goes, hey, you know what? I'm fully inspired now. It's weird where it comes, but all of a sudden it'll just fucking jump out there and it'll throw you an idea or it'll give you an image and you can just go. But don't go running around like a fucking crazy person when the power's out.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I'm getting at, is that there's something behind the boredom, behind the curtain of boredom, where we're talking about boredom. And what's funny about this, what should be a boring conversation, is the amount of trouble that each of us have finding that point, because we don't want to go there. Because being bored is a horrible fucking experience. Like, it's awful. I fucking hate it. But there's something there. I think that, does anybody else want to bring up something, change gears, about something exciting that isn't marketing? Or does, fucking, you are looking at Reverb right now, Ivan, I know it. Does Ivan want to talk about gear? What do you mean you don't want to fucking talk about gear? What the fuck? Why don't you want to talk about
Bought new
something?
gear in ages.
Something's wrong. Oh no, that's good. I actually, Connor, who's in Glitch Mob, God, Sean Payne's band. I forgot their name. This is terrible. Cyanotic. Connor, who's my mate from Chicago, him and I have a birthday on the same day. If anybody wants to send me a copy of Toy Story 3 on VHS or Toy Story 4 on VHS, I will gladly accept that. Thank you. I'm getting a copy of Zoolander from Eric. And one of the people I work with actually knows the guy that Zoolander was based on. He is a real guy named Tash, who was a model in fucking Hawaii. He was a real guy. And apparently Ben Stiller was just following him around going, dude. Anyway, fuck, what was I talking about? It's
Your birthday?
gone.
We were talking about whether or not you wanted to jump into a gear discussion.
But what was after that? Zoolander. Oh, Connor. Yeah, Connor. Connor's looking at getting an old Wave Station, a Wave Station SR, the single rack version. And it's really interesting, like when I talk about old gear and stuff, it's like, he could get a Korg, one of the new Korg Wave State things, and they're so much better. But I don't know, it's so fascinating how there's magic, and then there's the rumor of magic. And then there's the promise of magic and the myth of magic. And those things are actually they mean more than the magic themselves. Because, man, I'm telling you, those fucking Wave Stations, they were a pain in the neck to program. Those things sucked. I had an AD.
The modern ones are also a pain.
God. Toy Story. Don't fucking sell me shit for sale. Jesus. I've got Toy Story. Brett, for the love of fuck. I have Toy Story. I've nearly run out. I've nearly worn it out. I've got 1 and 2. Fantastic, man. Great movie. Thank you. Don't send me this porn. Aaron, I see your hand go.
I'll keep it short, but it kind of runs on the street of new things with old gear. I got to find the link. Somebody had grafted together somehow. They took an old Zenith glass front TV and a theremin, and holy fuck, they found a way to patch a control into the Zenith remote to fuck with the antenna, for the theremin to interfere with the TV. So you got a whole new dynamic on the way that the visuals would stutter stop or move or wave shape as they're playing the theremin. It's accented on the visuals of the TV.
That's cool.
It's cool as fuck. I got to find the link. I got to send it. Maybe that'll be oddly inspiring. Again, just trying to do new things with old gear,
Yes. Even reading about this shit's exciting enough. So that book I was talking about a few weeks ago, sorry, Brett started me on Toy Story. We're not going back now. And old gear and all of this shit. So, you know, we were talking about how cool the internet was. This is your fault, Brett. This is you. You did this. We were talking about how cool the internet was, and I found that book I was trying to tell you what it was. I tracked it down and I bought it. And it was like $8 and it cost $2 to ship it here. I went, fuck it. And it's in immaculate condition. And it's full of all of these websites from the mid-late 90s. And it's so cool. And it's just so fucking cool. And is this nostalgia? I'm also talking about the old gear. I'm talking about all of so much of the stuff. Is it the promise of gold as opposed to the gold itself? Do you know what I'm talking about here? Rezi, talk to me. That's a very pained look on your face, by the way.
Yeah, because I'm lagging a little bit. I just wanted to ask you one more thing about Toy Story before we move on to there's still nostalgia going on here. Pixar's strength at that time was plastic stuff. Pixar's strength was making cute, really interesting, extremely expressive objects come to life. And they did that so well. Do you think it would have been a better movie if they totally Peanuts ganged all of the humans and adults and just had the toys as the focus of the story, the things that you see on the screen?
What an interesting idea. Also, Monsters, Inc. And Monsters University. I'll add them to the list as well. Jesus. That's a really interesting. And if they were going, "Mar, mar, mar, mar," that would be interesting.
Or left them out somehow. There's creative ways to approach it, but you could
Yeah.
also leave them out, and whatever your best creative solution. I thought that at that time, the conceit that they were also made of plastic with the look, maybe, or are they actual humans? By the time we get to Monsters, Inc., obviously fur and flowing and these convincing physics models of small objects and stuff, like it's a different world. But at that
It's
point,
also it's very interesting because it's like, I think as a design crew, they sat down and said, here's the limitations. Here's what we can do, and here's what we can make them look like. And as they get on, the humans become more realistic or more 3D, typically cartoonish, because by that stage there'd been so many movies where they'd figured out what does a 3D human look like in cartoon world.
yes, and we've gotten there obviously shortly after Pixar's first feature-length movie. We decided what we can make cartoon three-dimensional characters stand on their own, but I don't think they were there yet.
No.
I think they were it was a confusing aesthetic that they had to do the people with that didn't really make it a stronger visual story anyway.
Yeah, fascinating.
But yeah, did you want to jump back in on
Well,
it?
I will say that, and that's a really important, thing. And that Thurman TV, by the way, I should put it in here. It's bloody amazing. That's what's really cool also about Pixar. We're talking about it. I don't care. Is that they didn't go back and redo it. And you can look at it and you can see the original Toy Story and you can see how the colors still don't totally pop. Or they did go back apparently and tweak the colors a bit. Because as the movies move along, the colors become more and more really, really bright. But I really like the way that you can watch those movies and take it from it is a journey of technology. It's like listening to Devo, going from album to album to album, and then you go to Fresh, which is, I think, their best album, which is their last album. And you can watch technology evolve with them. Brilliant stuff. Yeah, fascinating, man, fascinating. But I'm telling you, man, Rob, welcome. The toys under Sid's beds were terrifying. Aaron, go.
I think what's funny too is if there's a difference between going to rewatch something because you go, that's like my favorite thing, this is my favorite shit, this is my jam, or re-examining it and if you start thinking about it and you go, all right, there's a strength of story here, or you could examine the storytelling, or if you're watching with the kid, they see it totally different, But point being, you could re-examine a film and go, I like what they did with that music score. Oh, I love what they're doing with the Foley sound effects. Holy shit, that's awesome. Or you start to see how unique that the characters speak, or how they use music to drive that film. because you'll hear things where people will recut a soundtrack, you know, for comedy efforts, or they'll turn a comedy movie into a horror movie because tonality, right? They know a way to turn it on its head, or they know how to edit or cut a trailer. Um, yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a strength to explore there. You know, it's re-examining old things depending on what you are looking at for visual inspiration, musical inspiration, da 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 da. Like, I don't know how long ago it was that I learned that the visual effects for the thing, for the opening letters that are burning out, it's a fucking trash bag. Okay. He figured out a way to do a controlled burn, but he lit a trash bag on fire, and then it formed like the letters. How fucking cool is that? You know? And again, it could be, you know, it could be, yeah, okay, I just want to revisit it because it's my jam and it's my favorite thing. Or there could be a way to re-examine it and just be like, that's where sometimes the inspiration comes out of nowhere, you know, and you're like, oh, fuck yeah, I want to figure out how they did that, how they emulated that, you know, and then you can find a purpose driven search to recreate things visually, sonically, thematically.
What's also very interesting, I find, about these movies is that you watch the progression of studios listening closely to people, and there's a point where they drop the ball. And I'm always reminded in my music that and in my art that there's a line between remembering that people will listen to this and they want to be part of it, and also it has to remain confronting, and finding that balance. Because when you get rid of, and we've had the conversation of punk versus production a lot of times, that it gets too produced, it gets overly produced, and now it's this statement of borderline perfection that doesn't have any meaning. And that's the real interesting thing, is that when do you, like, for me, I'm kind of getting to the 80% mark and saying, maybe this is where I should stop. Because, 10 years ago, the 80% mark now was my 100% mark back then. Don't keep producing it. Don't keep going. Don't keep perfecting the mix. Don't. And it's really hard. It's difficult sometimes. It's difficult. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. And there's the same thing when you listen back into fucking Steely Dan or whatever. Rob, where the fuck are you right now, man? Because I keep seeing all the sand dunes. I thought it was Death Valley, but then I thought, nah, that's not that huge. But yeah, no, it's a really interesting thing. And also they're great just to fucking veg out and have a laugh at and go, fuck, as a kid I love this, and as an adult this is blowing my mind. Aaron, talk to me.
I'll keep it brief, but I would encourage the save as function on your DAW or your program, as cheesy as that sounds. If you're talking about the line of overproduced or too much polish, you might get to a point where you're like, oh, fuck yeah, I got to add that too. Oh, yeah, I want to add that too. It might come to a point where you go, you know what? Functionally, this was working. This was fucking slamming up until the last few minutes. So you might just go, you know what? Fuck it, save as. This is this track, V2, and that's sequestered off to its own thing. And that eventually might evolve to a new track. You might be able to pin new lyrics to it, So in essence, you haven't lost all the new aha moments and all the things that you might have wanted to add. But for the sake of decluttering both your screen and your brain, you might go, you know what? Save as V2, that's fucking got to go over here, and get back into like the bedrock of what that song is, and mastering and getting everything to fucking play well. And maybe that was the whole reason it wasn't working well in the first place. It was just too much shit right there and then, so may need to break it up.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I always find that if the idea is simple, the entire path is simple. If the idea is not strong, a strong idea, a simple and strong idea, just doesn't need anything else on it. It just happens. But finding that simple, strong idea is like, Do we want to end on a high note and go back and let Ivan talk about gear or something? The idea might get strong when you save as and start fooling around. Yeah, Julius, it's interesting that it's like it's a cluttered thought. Like and that's the problem, is that so many of the thoughts for me are cluttered. And I have to go and simplify and simplify and simplify and simplify and say, at the core of this, what is going on here? What is the simple 3-note melody or whatever? Like, what's the really simple core idea here? Yeah. And that's that's why I don't like working out things on doors. Like, I like to sit at my piece of shit fucking keyboard from a thrift shop that was free because it was broken, but then I fixed it. And I go plink, plink, plink until it actually works. Yeah. So that's my thoughts. Same with the lyrics, same with everything. It's just, I can't. And it's like, I also have to be careful about, like, the saving as thing's a great idea, but I have to, even the line of the process itself has to be really easy. It's got to be simple. It's got to be clear. Because a powerful blow is just a powerful blow, you know? I don't know. What do you think, Aaron?
I mean, writing tandem was simple as best. I mean, I might see a promo for something that gets me way excited, and it's not even a track from an album yet. You know, it's a little kitty small piano. You know, it's a peanut style piano, and they literally had a promo where somebody from Slipknot was playing the piano. You know, slightly discordant, just that. It was just that thing. And that was the whole thing. The cinematography and everything was fucking incredible. It sold it, but it wasn't, oh, I'm so fucking amped because I heard 10 seconds of the entire new Slipknot song. No, it was literally just a very simple, very basic. And, you know, maybe sometimes that's what the track needs, you know, it just needs that point where that cacophony of sound, that entire calamity got to a point where it crests and then it just drops, you know, and somewhere on a plateau could be, like you said, Carl, the more simplified, you know, I'm just going to fuck around and clang and bang or hit some keystrokes or whatever else, you know, and at that time you could have fun with it. And if it patches back into the song, cool. And if not, then that's cool too, you know. But sonically, yeah, you probably need that minute where you just like, fuck it, you know, let's just go down to something fun that brings you joy, you know.
Yes. Okay, does anybody else want to throw anything in? Otherwise, we're going to fling on over to MTV TV. Ivan, I actually would like you to talk. He's gone. Does anybody want to talk about anything else? Or do we want to fuck off?
Reverb got him. He got swatted.
He got
the
it.
agents of Reverb invaded his apartment.
Here's Ivan. Ivan, like, seriously, do you want to talk about gear or anything?
No, but I've been planning the floor for third floor and Cork.
Okay.
I need to finish third floor so that I can buy gear.
Cork is very
Now,
sustainable.
I have no place to put it.
Awesome. Okay, well, with that in mind, every Saturday we're here. Please join us, and we're gonna figure shit out, or try to, or move towards figuring shit out. If you're bored, Angelspit's Patreon is there. As little as $3 a month or free. Because I really want to keep you going. It's very important. I'm doing a gig. I'm excited about this gig. A little nervous, but quite excited. It's there, and it's going to be amazing. There's a playlist. I want you to listen to this playlist because there are bands on that playlist you need to fucking know about. And if you're on the playlist, Pimp the playlist. Thank you so much. Wednesday nights, Vulture Culture is going to talk about synths, and it's really good. It's one of the only places I like to listen to people talk about synths because the guy knows what he's talking about, and it pertains to music. But right now, I want to thank Rezi for being amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
We're going to shoot on over to MTV TV. So if you're watching this on anything else, Diana, let's hit that raid. That's where we're going. And thank you, Rob, for having a video coming. I can't wait. And Adam, you're amazing. And Adapt, Manipulate, and Julius, and Alex, and I'm just scrolling, and Jen, and everyone. Thank you for being part of this. And I thought Sir Alistair before, and Frank says hi. It's just too fantastic. It really is. Tell me when that thing's rated. Tell me when that thing has.
Mine rated.
It has? Fantastic. There's